Today I'm going to be sharing some dreams I had about alien encounters. If this interests you, stick around and let's get into it. Hi, and welcome back to the Wholeness Shift. My name is Veronica, and if this is your first time here, welcome. I teach people about easy, practical spirituality and intentional living and the law of attraction and all kinds of things. So if these are the things that interest you, hit the subscribe button below because I wouldn't want you to miss out on anything good. After last week's video, when I talked about some past life dreams that I've had, many of you stated that you would be really interested in hearing about some of the dreams that I've had that involve what I think are alien encounters or have to do with alien encounters. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Before I get into this, I have to preface it with some information that many of you probably already know if you're in the spiritual community, but I'm betting many of you don't. So first, just a little backstory and a little explanation. You know, growing up, I never really believed in aliens. It's not that I didn't believe in them, I just didn't give them a second thought. It wasn't even something that I gave any consideration to. I just didn't care. Then fast forward to a handful of years ago when I was binging Gigi Young videos on YouTube, and she was talking about aliens and starseeds and all those things. And so I stopped and took a moment and asked Spomi, my guide, in case you don't know who that is. I asked Spomi if it's real. Is this true? Are aliens real? And he said, yes, very much so. And I was shocked for a minute, as I usually am, when I realize how ignorant I've been about something. And I'm like, whoa. So then I went down the rabbit hole. I went so far down the rabbit hole. I just went gung-ho into the unknown. Actually, to be fair, I was gung-ho and hesitant all at the same time because I was thirsty for this information. I was extremely curious, but I was hesitant all at the same time because I had no idea what to expect. And I had heard about, as we all have, about abductions and experiments and all the crazy, scary, spooky things, right? So I spent a lot of time talking to Spomi and my other guides about this topic, and boy, was my mind blown wide open. That's when I learned that many of my guides are in fact what would be called aliens. I often use the terms interchangeably: alien, multidimensional being, extraterrestrial, ET being, star race. All of those things are kind of interchangeable. And so if you hear one versus the other, now you know. I also learned that we, humans and Earth, have always worked closely with the aliens. It's not when are they going to arrive, it's they've always been here. They were here long before we were. And they have always worked closely with us. We have soul contracts with them. They look at us like family, like cousins or brothers. Most of them are completely benevolent. Now, there are a handful of races that are more malevolent and don't have the highest intentions for us. But you have to be careful with that too, because just like with humanity, there are good people and there are bad people. Same thing there. You can't throw out an entire star race like the reptilians or something simply because of what you hear about them. I mean, they've earned a lot of that reputation. However, there are good eggs in every race. So you have to take it on a case-by-case basis overall. So like I said, I learned that on a soul level, many humans have contracted with various star races to work on certain projects. You may not be aware of it on a conscious level, but on a soul level, you may work closely with them, and you just don't remember it in your waking life. It kind of goes on a person-by-person basis, and we'll get into that a little bit more later, but it's kind of like Men in Black. If they think that it's going to bother you or that it'll freak you out, they'll just zap you and wipe those memories away. So as far as the abduction situations go, I mean, yes, those things did happen. Absolutely, they happened. A a lot of the less loving star races were responsible for a lot of that. And they've since, I don't want to go too far in depth here, but anyways, they're not supposed to do that anymore. We have a lot of protection in place. There were some treaties made, etc., etc. They're not really supposed to do that anymore. We are protected. That doesn't mean it never happens, but it rarely happens. Now, with that being said, a lot of the things that are still happening that are labeled abduction, they're really not, because you have likely contracted, like I said, with these people, or with these beings rather, to do this work. And so you are part of this project, you've agreed to it, you're very aware of it normally, but you just don't remember it in your waking life. So if you do remember anything about like them coming to get you, like picking you up for work type of thing, you can be afraid and you'll label it as an abduction, but really it's not, because abduction connotes that there's some kind of something happening against your will. And it really isn't against your will on a soul level, if that makes sense. And I know from experience that they have no desire to harm you or to scare you. That is not their intention. And I actually want to remember more of my experiences, and they've tested the waters, which is what a lot of these dreams are about. They've tested the waters, and apparently on a physical human level, I am way more afraid of them than I think I am, because it didn't go so good in the dreams. Another thing that they may do is, besides zap your memory like Men in Black, sometimes they allow you... Wow, there was just like a big boom. I don't know what that was. Not sure if you guys heard it or not, but anyways, another thing that they do is they can allow you to keep some of the memory, and they just place what's called a screen memory over top of it. So I'll use an example from Dolores Cannon's, one of her books, and I don't remember it verbatim, so if I get it a little bit wrong, bear with me, but this is the gist of it. Like, there was a lady who had a gap of lost time, and they were like, well, what do you remember? And she's like, well, I just remember driving down the road and I had to stop because there was this huge owl in the middle of the road, and like the owl flew up over her windshield or something. Like, there was a large owl in the middle of the road, and then she remembers coming to, and this owl took off from the middle of the road and like flew over her windshield, and she was freaking out because this owl was huge. Well, when she was hypnotized and regressed to that memory, what actually happened is there was a small spacecraft and an alien standing in the middle of the road. She went with them. She had her experience. When they put her back in her truck, the spacecraft flew over her windshield and the cab of her truck, and she was like, whoa, but they superimposed a screen memory over that so that she was allowed to kind of remember things, but she remembered it as it being an owl. So on my journey, I know that I'm working with them on these projects now, several projects. And I also know that I'm extremely loved and protected and supported. But I also know that in this this particular human body and mind that I have, it gets kind of freaked out by their physical presence. So I talk to them all the time. I feel their energy all the time. I see them in my mind. I see them in my dreams. But I don't know that they will ever physically reveal themselves to me or allow me to remember those. Who knows? Never say never. But at this point in time, I'm not sure, because, yeah, I just still have hesitancy. Not on a conscious level, but on a subconscious level. So I think I'm getting better, though. I think I'm doing better. But they're the judge of that, not me. Okay, so I think that about wraps up my preface and my explanation good enough. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments. I will do my best to answer them. But I'm still learning as well. This is all kind of new to me just in the last couple of years, and I'm still learning too. So I will do my best to answer you. Number 1. This is a dream where they were testing my reaction. in the dream, we were standing inside of like an auto body garage, or like the garage at a gas station, and the kind that has like the glass front doors that roll up and down. We were standing inside of one of those, and in front of me, about 3 or 4 feet in front of me probably, there was a really, really tall, big alien. He was brown in color. I would say his coloring and like the texture of his skin was the same as E.T., the movie. You know, that brown mottled looking color. That's the color that I remember it being. He was very tall and thin and lanky. He had extremely long fingers. I don't remember how many fingers, but everything about him was just tall and long. He wasn't threatening at all. He wasn't scary looking back on it, and he wasn't doing anything threatening. He was simply standing there, allowing me to look at him, and they were all judging my reaction. Like, several people were around him, and I'm sure that they were my guides. And so everybody was standing there watching me look at him. And so they, I didn't freak out, and I wasn't scared, but I was silent. Like, when I'm uncomfortable or I'm scared, I tend to get very quiet, and I was just silent. And so they started conversations, and they were laughing and joking around and telling jokes and having conversation. And the next thing I know, I'm like halfway across the garage. Basically, I'm backing away slowly. Just slowly backing away. The next scene I remember, I'm halfway across the garage, and I can see them watching me back away. And then the next scene, I'm literally as far away as I could get in the garage. I'm in the corner by the front door with the wall behind me, and I'm just silent and watching from across the room. And they're not bringing attention to me, but I can see them seeing me. I see them looking at me and watching me, and they're kind of amused by my reaction, but they're not pointing it out. And then I woke up. I was okay to watch, but I wanted to watch from way over there. Number 2. So in this dream, I think that they were trying to break me in a little softer, or they were just making fun of me, poking fun at me, which is entirely possible. But either way, they were trying to seem as sweet and harmless and inviting as possible. So in this dream, I was supposed to be at a class reunion, like a high school reunion. And there was what was supposed to be our school mascot there. And so this big fuzzy, and I can't remember, it was either pink and blue or pink and purple fuzzy mascot is like bouncing all over like, hey, look at me, I'm cute and innocent. And when it came near me, I could see 2 blue faces looking out at me and smiling at me. There were 2 of them in there. Blue faces. I think they must have been Arcturian or something, but because I do have Arcturian guides. So there were 2 blue faces in there peeking out the mouth hole and smiling like, look at us. In the dream, I didn't think twice about it, but when I woke up, it just made me laugh. So there was a point in time shortly after I started learning about aliens where everything came to a screeching halt. All of the interaction I was having with them, the dreams I was having, the energy I was feeling, and not just them, excuse me, and not just them, my entire spiritual team, everything just went radio silent. I know that I had felt something strange and unusual and very creepy. I had never felt it before, but I felt this dark, ominous, heavy energy in my room one night when I was trying to go to sleep. And I asked for it to leave. But it made quite an impression on me. I did not like that. And then that night I'll tell you about the dream in a minute, but it was this mind-blowing dream, very disturbing dream. And then after that, my pendulum, like I would pick up my pendulum, nothing. I would try to talk to Spomi, nothing. it was so strange. I've never felt radio silence like that before. It's like they just flipped a switch and anything related spiritually just got shut off. And I started to freak out a little bit about it. It was very confusing to me. And so I had finally, days, maybe weeks later, a couple weeks, I had gotten a hold of my guide on my pendulum. So I don't remember the exact wording, but basically they had said, everything's okay, you're safe, always safe, best to lay low for a while. You are loved, we are here, but you must lay low and remain quiet. I thought that was very unusual. And then they finished by saying, we will be back when it's time. And I'm like, time for what? Like, what is happening? I've never felt you guys leave before. And they're like, we didn't leave. We are here. Just must lay low. Be still. And so I pressed them as to why. And I was like, does this have anything to do with that experience I had a few weeks ago? And they were like, yes. And basically what they told me, or what they alluded to, was that I think I fell on the radar of some, because of all my interest and all the energy I was expending on learning about these things and being open to experiences, I fell on the radar of some not so loving beings. And according to the dream I had some kind of experience. But then what it seemed like was that my team swooped in and basically what it felt like to me was that they like covered me with some kind of a cloaking device or like protection. Spomi, I never asked you, like, is that what happened? Is that what you guys were doing, I mean? In a nutshell? Yes. Was I really in danger of any kind? He said no, but in my mind I could hear him say, but why tempt fate? So, why cause trouble that I would have to be saved from? I would always be safe, but why cause the trouble I would have to be saved from when I could just be still and let the danger go away, if that makes sense. So yeah, basically he's saying that that is what happened, that basically everything went radio silent. They like covered me with like a cloaking spell or something, and kept me safe until whatever it was lost interest and it went away. Thank you guys for doing that. I love you all. I appreciate you. So for this dream that I had that night, I just tapped back into the energy of it. I'm like, So this dream I had that night, I was in some kind of a temporary camp. I'll try to find some pictures and put them up here to show you what I mean. We were like in a large field or a parking lot or something like that, and we were setting up this temporary camp. There were a lot of people there. I don't know how big this thing was. I don't know how many people, but I was walking down one of the like temporary roads or streets in this little camp, and I was watching everybody set up their camps. And everybody was happy and in a good mood and nervous, like a lot of nervous excitement. They were nervous, but they were excited to see what's going to happen. Like, what is this? What are we doing? Like, what's going to happen? Is this going to be cool? And I remember in particular this one girl. She was like this cute little blonde girl that looked like she belonged in Coachella. If you know what I mean. I will try to find a picture of what I mean up here. I wouldn't really call her a hippie or a boho girl, but she was just this cute little natural blonde with long hair. And she was so excited, and she was in there getting her tent ready and getting her sleeping bag ready and unpacking all her stuff. I don't know if she had stuff. Anyway, she was getting the inside of her tent ready. I kept walking, and I don't know how long I was walking. I don't know what period of time this was supposed to be that passed, because I just remember glimpses, like a snapshot, a snapshot, a snapshot. And so I was walking, and all of a sudden, down at the end of this road, probably 30, 40, 50 feet up there where it turned a corner onto the little path I was on, this same girl came running. This same girl came running, and she was traumatized, like terrified. The look of horror on her face. Her eyes were as big as saucers. She wasn't making any noise, but she was trying to scream for her life. Like nothing was coming out. But she was just running and like, help me. And the closer she got, I could see that she had some kind of a burr hole in the middle of her forehead. And like it had been drilled into. So when she got to about maybe 4 or 5 feet in front of me, these beings that had been coming behind her, just walking slowly, like they knew they were going to catch her. They didn't need to run. She wasn't going anywhere. And I don't know what kind of beings they were because they were wearing some kind of protective suit. It wasn't, I wouldn't say it was a hazmat suit with like a big, heavy, bulky helmet or anything, but they were wearing like isolation gowns or some kind of a protective thing with masks, and they were covered up in a way. And there were 3 or 4 of them, and they were coming after her. And right when she got right before me, they did something. I don't know if they did it mentally, like telepathically. I don't know if they pushed a little button. I can't remember. But they did something that activated some kind of mind control or some kind of something that they had implanted in her. Something in her was activated so that she no longer had control. She had to obey them. And she was running, terrified, and she literally just stopped. And her arms dropped. And even though she couldn't have free will of her own body at this moment in time, you could see the expression on her face was just one of sorrow and sadness and regret and just being defeated. And like her arms dropped and her face just went like she knew she didn't have any choice. And she just turned around and peacefully walked back with them, and they followed her. And at that point, I mean, I was freaked out. And I was like, I need to find my way out of here. And I just remember making my way out of this camp and heading towards this building. And it was like this huge warehouse or factory or something. And I was around the back of it by this big loading dock, like several different bays for this loading dock. And as I got there, these 2 guys came running at me like a bat out of hell, and they were pushing a gurney with a body bag on it, a black body bag. And once they realized they were like behind the building, they were out of view, they stopped and they're screaming at me to please help them. They got to save the baby. And they unzip this body bag, and I'm like, what am I going to see? And this guy sits up. It was a man that was hiding in the body bag. He sits up and helps them start unzipping the rest of the body bag. And in between his legs, inside of this body bag, there was a newborn baby. Brand new baby, still all goopy and squishy and dirty. And they're just like, we got to get the baby out of here. Basically, they had kidnapped the baby. They were sneaking it out by pretending they had a dead body in a bag they had to go get rid of. And so they let them out with this gurney, but they didn't realize that they had stolen one of the babies, and they were trying to get the baby out to safety. And then I woke up. And just as a reminder, this was the same night that I felt that weird energy in my room, and then everything went radio silent. And to say that that was intense would be quite the understatement. Just explaining it can't even begin to convey the intensity of this dream. I don't remember being hurt. I think I was protected even through that. I think that I was allowed to see what's out there so that it's like, be careful. But I wasn't allowed to be hurt. But then they just kept me safe. Number 4. So this dream took place very shortly after the dream I just told you about. A couple of days, maybe a week. I don't even think it was a week. It was probably just a couple of days. And in this dream, I'm going to try my best to find pictures that convey anything that I'm talking about, as I usually do. I'll try. So in this dream, I was sitting inside of a white school bus. I was about halfway back. I was looking out. I was on the left-hand side, about halfway back, and I was looking out the window. And I could see really far in the distance, there was a river, and then across the river, there was this rocky mountain. There was like a steep mountain that it wasn't green and lush and full of trees. It was like real rocky, like rocky cliffs. And like attached to the side of this mountain, there was like these white, looked like a white half pipe, almost like a bobsled track that was attached to the side of the mountain. And I could see people, it looked like it was a water slide. It looked like people were water sliding down it. And I knew that I was supposed to be going there on this bus, or I had just come from there on this bus. Either way, I was like, those were the people I was with that were over there on that water slide. And they were thinking that they were there to have a good time. All of a sudden, I heard this huge boom or crash or commotion. I wasn't sure what it was, but all of a sudden I saw a white cement truck barrel over the side of this mountain and fall down and crash and through all of these water slides. And I could just hear people screaming and trauma happening. And then I saw a white semi-truck come over the mountain next, plow through the people, through the river, and it was coming full steam ahead at me. And I asked for help, I think. I remember asking for help, but this semi-truck stopped. It like was crashing, like skidding through the dirt 100 miles an hour at me, and all of a sudden it just stopped right here. Inches from my face, right before the window, it just stopped. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I got up and got off of the school bus. And as I'm getting off the school bus, some of the survivors of what had happened back there by the river were making their way up to me. They were drenched, slopping in water, everything pouring off of them. And one of them just looked at me like with the most exhausted, battle-weary, traumatized look on their face. They were just like, and they like looked at me and they just kept walking. And like, you're so lucky you weren't there. You're so lucky this didn't happen to you. And I just knew that I had been saved and protected purposely from whatever just happened over there. Whatever just happened to those people that thought that they were there for one reason, and it turned out to be something really different and traumatic, I was spared from that. And if you remember from a few weeks ago when I did that video on like meanings of dreams or dream definitions, I'll link to it below if you haven't seen it. Anyways, if you remember from that dream, I had said that anything white had to do with spirit. And I was on this white school bus, so I was being protected and shielded by spirit. And it always felt like they were directly connected, those two dreams. Like whatever happened, I was spared from and I'm protected. But other people actually went through some stuff. So I'm not sure what that was about, but that was a very heavy experience. I've never had anything like that since. I never had anything like that before, but that one little period in time, like that month or two, when was that? That was like 2016, 2017, 4 or 5 years ago. That was intense. Number 5. In this dream, I was some kind of a doctor or a nurse. I'm not quite sure what gender I am. I felt like myself, but I always feel like myself in these dreams. So yourself just changes bodies. So in this dream, I was either a doctor or a nurse, and I was making house calls. and we were in some kind of a rural area, like it felt Appalachian or something. It felt we were in the mountains, and I was at this old house doing a house call for this old man. And I asked him what was wrong, like, how can I help him or whatever. And he was talking about how bad his hands hurt, and could I look at his hands? And I'm like, sure, let me see your hands. And when he pulled out his hand, he looked like a normal guy, but his hand was the hand of that brown alien that I saw from the garage. It was this brown, the same brown skin. Like, I don't know that it was rough. I don't remember it being rough, but it looked like it would be rough and like tough and leathery and brown and kind of mottled, and super long fingers. I still can't remember how many fingers, 3 or 4, but just this hand with the long fingers. And I wasn't necessarily afraid, but I remember when you're a nurse, one of the first things you're trained to is never let it show on your face. I don't care what you're looking at. I don't care what you're smelling. I don't care what you're cleaning up. I don't care what it looks like. You never let it show on your face, because that patient is going to be guaranteed, they're going to be looking at you. And if you show any sign of shock or repulsion or anything, they're going to lose trust with you. They're going to feel self-conscious. They're going to feel like they need to protect themselves from you because they feel your judgment, and you want them to trust you and open up and just let them help you, and you want to reassure them. So you never let it show. So in this dream, I remember thinking, put on your game face. It's okay. Stay calm. No big deal. And I was just acting like it was any other hand, like, okay, well, let's see what we have here. And so I felt I did better in that dream. I didn't back away to the furthest corner, but I've never really had a whole lot of dreams like that after that, so I'm not sure how they think I did. I guess time will tell. Number 6. Initially, I didn't realize what this dream was. I had this dream years ago. I don't know how many years ago. 3, 4, 5 years ago. And I didn't realize what was happening. Spomy's telling me it was a lot longer than that. So it might have even been 10 years ago. But I didn't realize what it was at the time. I realized what it was probably within the last month when I've been listening to Dolores Cannon's audiobooks. And there was this one hypnosis she did where they were talking about an experience a lady had and on this ET ship. Like, she was aboard a ship, and this was an experience she had. And the light bulb came on, and I immediately remembered this dream I had years ago. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's almost exactly what I dreamed. And I'm like, Spomy, do I remember this? Like, was that a memory? Like, was that an experience? Did I do what this lady said she did? And he's like, yes. And I'm like blew my mind open. So this dream was kind of short from what I remember. It wasn't very long, but I've never had another one like it. In this dream, I was in this large, round, white room. At least that's the way I very vividly remember it. I don't even know that you could see the corners or the floor. It was just super bright white, very modern, spacey looking room. And there was a woman, I didn't recognize her, but there was a woman standing kind of in the middle of the room, arms out, kind of in anatomical position, just arms kind of out a little bit, legs spread slightly, and just staring straight ahead, emotionless, didn't talk. She was just standing there like that. And I started behind this like glass partition. It reminded me of, like, if you've ever gone to get an x-ray, how the x-ray tech goes back behind the glass or plexiglass partition and can see into the room, but they're behind this. That's how it was, except everything was like super clean and sleek and modern and white. So I started behind this glass partition, and then I noticed that I was floating out And yes, I said floating. Like I was out of my body. I was just energy. And I was floating all around this body. I was seeing, like I could float through her hair. I felt like it was my job to examine her, or like for some reason I was examining her. I was examining her body, and I was like all over. I just floated all over and was looking at all the nooks and crannies, and I was thinking how effortless it was to just to float and move and change direction. I felt completely like myself. I would have all my own personality, memories, all of that, but I had no body. I was energy. And I was examining this woman, and I don't think she was naked. I don't remember her being naked, but she might have been in a bathing suit or underwear or something like that, because she wasn't fully clothed, but I don't remember her being naked, but close to it. And I was just out of body. I was energy. I was in this round white room, and I was examining her. And that's when I woke up. So I hope you found these as interesting as I did. It always fascinates me when I get these little glimpses of my encounters with the other side or with alien beings, and I'm happy to be working with them. I'm honored to be working with them. I've always known that I had a higher calling on this earth. I'm here to help humanity. I'm here to serve. But I think it's really cool to know that many of us also have that same calling, and we're working on helping humanity from the other side as well. So I just think it's all fascinating, and I'm thoroughly enjoying learning about it. And thank you for letting me share my experiences with you. If you've had any experiences of your own, any encounters, any dreams or anything, please leave them down in the comments. I'm so fascinated by this, and I would love to hear what you have to say. All right, until next time.